let's talk about the NBA and my expectations for the NBA this season. So let's start off in the Western Conference. In the Western Conference, you got the Warriors, the reigning NBA defending champions, returning back to the floor. They got Steph Curry coming back. This is Klay Thompson, 2 years removed from his terrible injury that he suffered. So Klay Thompson, I expect to be close to 100% as the season goes along this year. They just recently signed Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins. They still got Kuminga. They still got Draymond Green. So this Warriors team will be the favorites in the Western Conference. They are coached by Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr is one of the best coaches that we have in the NBA. And the Golden State Warriors organization overall is a top tier organization in basketball. So the Warriors are going to be a top 5 seed in the Western Conference. But I believe they're going to have a lot of competition this year in the West. I expect the LA Clippers to compete in the Western Conference. They're going to get back Kawhi Leonard. They got Paul George as well. They got John Wall, who is trying to revitalize his career. I love John Wall on this Clippers team. John Wall alongside Reggie Jackson. We seen in the playoffs a few years ago when Kawhi Leonard went down with his injury in the playoffs. In the Western Conference Finals, Reggie Jackson was balling for the Clippers. He is a reliable scoring option for this Clippers team. John Wall, Reggie Jackson, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard is a solid Fab Four for that Clippers team. Kawhi Leonard is still a top 5 player when he's healthy. I'm going to say it again. When Kawhi Leonard is healthy, he's a top 5 player in the NBA. They got Tyronn Lue as their head coach. I think Tyronn Lue is one of the best coaches in the NBA. I love how Ty Lue makes adjustments in games and in playoff series. We've seen Tyronn Lue make major adjustments for this LA Clippers team. So they're going to be contenders in the Western Conference. The Denver Nuggets, they're going to get back Jamal Murray. I love the dynamic duo with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. Jokic is fresh off an MVP season. He won back-to-back NBA MVPs. So Jokic has emerged as a top 10 player in the NBA. And Jamal Murray, when he gets back to 100%, Jamal Murray can help the Nuggets be contenders in the Western Conference. Before his injury, Jamal Murray was in that same conversation with the Donovan Mitchells of the world and Jaylen Browns of the world. He was in that same conversation. In the bubble, Jamal Murray went shot for shot with Donovan Mitchell in that first round playoff series between the Nuggets and the Jazz. So Jamal Murray, when he's back to 100%, watch out for the Denver Nuggets, the Dallas Mavericks. They still got Luka. So we know Luka is a top 5 player in the NBA. They got shooters around Luka. And that was why they were so lethal last year in the postseason. You look at the players that the Mavericks have around Luka and their shooters. They got Bertans, they got Reggie Bullock, they got Spencer Dinwiddie. So Luka has shooters around him to be successful and to position this Dallas Mavericks team to be a playoff team. The Memphis Grizzlies, they're going to get back Ja Morant. They got Ja Morant. They got Jackson. They got a lot of pieces on this Grizzlies team that can help them win basketball games this year. They got Jaren Jackson. They got Steven Adams. Ja Morant has emerged as a top 10 point guard in the NBA. They got Desmond Bane. They got Dylan Brooks. I love this Memphis Grizzlies team. They show a lot of grit. And I thought last year, if Ja Morant didn't get injured in that playoff series against the Golden State Warriors, I believe that series would have went 7 games. And we don't know what would have happened. So those are my teams in the Western Conference to look out for. Denver, Memphis, the LA Clippers, and the Golden State Warriors. I believe that the Phoenix Suns take a step back. I don't believe they're going to be that good this year. I think they're going to be a playoff team, but I don't believe that the Phoenix Suns are going to be a top 3 seed in the Western Conference. I love the New Orleans Pelicans. I really, really do. Zion Williamson, if he available and he's playing, the Pelicans are true contenders in the Western Conference. Yes, I am saying it. The New Orleans Pelicans are true contenders in the Western Conference with Zion Williamson in the lineup. We know best ability is availability. So Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum is a nice trio for that New Orleans Pelicans basketball team. They are my sleepers in the Western Conference. My Western Conference Finals matchup is the LA Clippers and the Golden State Warriors. That's my Western Conference Finals matchup. Let's go to the Eastern Conference. The Boston Celtics, they are the reigning Eastern Conference champions. They still got Jason Tatum. They still got Jaylen Brown. And I believe Tatum and Brown is a top 5 duo in the NBA. They got Grant Williams. They got Al Horford still. They did bring in Malcolm Brogdon, who's going to help them at point guard. I love Marcus Smart, but Marcus Smart is a defensive specialist, and he's not a true point guard. He's still going to get his minutes, but Malcolm Brogdon is going to help this Celtics offense late in games to be where they need to be. That was the problem last year in the playoffs for the Celtics. They had way too many turnovers by Tatum and by Brown at key moments. They got Malcolm Brogdon now to help them as a point guard in their offense. Now, I don't like the fact that Ime Udoka is suspended for the season. That's going to hurt this Boston Celtics team. It's going to hurt them because the adjustments that Ime Udoka made throughout the playoff run last year for the Celtics cannot be underestimated. They got Muzula in there. Muzula is a nice quality head coach. This is his first season being the leading man at head coach. We're going to see what kind of coach Muzula is. I like the Celtics to be a top 5 seed in the Eastern Conference. The Brooklyn Nets, they still got Kyrie Irving. They still got Kevin Durant. Like I said earlier, talking to Brian Snow, the Brooklyn Nets are going to have a better season this year than what they had last year because Kyrie Irving wants to get paid. And I believe Kyrie Irving will play at least 60 games this year. I'm saying it right now tonight on the show. Kyrie Irving is going to play at least 60 games this season. You still got Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is still a top 5 player in the NBA. They brought in Royce O'Neal. So he's a nice defender for that Nets team. They got Ben Simmons back. Which Ben Simmons is going to show up? Ben Simmons hasn't been relevant in the NBA over the last few years. It's time for him to show up. They got Joe Harris, a shooter that can help Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant spread the floor. And they got TJ Warren as well. We know he was great in the bubble for the Indiana Pacers. So they still got Steph Curry as well. He's a nice shooter. So I like the Nets. I think the Nets are going to have a better season again this year than what they had last year. The Milwaukee Bucks, they're going to be formidable in the Eastern Conference. They're going to get back Chris Middleton at some point this season. They got Giannis, a top 3 player in the NBA. Giannis was sensational last year for the Milwaukee Bucks. Last year, Giannis averaged 30 points per game on 55% shooting from the floor, 12 rebounds, 6 assists. Giannis was great last year for the Milwaukee Bucks. And I thought last year Giannis was dominant in the postseason for the Milwaukee Bucks. But again, Chris Middleton's availability and him being in the lineup, that's what's going to depend on how far the Milwaukee Bucks go. Their season is going to depend on the availability of Chris Middleton. So those are my top teams in the East. The Celtics, the Nets, and the Bucks. Honorable mention, the Miami Heat. I think the Miami Heat, they can ease their way into that conversation. I got to see what James Harden and Joel Embiid do this year. Last year, James Harden was a shell of himself. He was awful last year. So I want to see if the Sixers in the first half of the season can prove me wrong and work their way into being in that conversation with the Celtics, with the Nets, and with the Bucks. But right now, those are my top three teams in the East: Celtics, Bucks, Nets, and my Eastern Conference Finals is the Brooklyn Nets and the Boston Celtics. That's what I got. Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant versus Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum for the right to go to the NBA Finals. On Thursday's show, or maybe even next Tuesday, I'll give you my NBA Finals prediction. But that's what I got right now. Western Conference, Clippers versus the Warriors. Eastern Conference, Nets versus Celtics.